Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Liz McGinn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz McGinn. I work in marketing with Senseye Predictive Maintenance, and today we're going to be talking about how to jumpstart your digitalization journey by empowering operations with Siemens Expert Services. And I'm joined here by our Expert Services expert, Dave. Dave, can you give us a little bit more of your background?
Hi Liz, yep. I'm the regional manager for services for motion control, and I'm responsible for the regions UK, Central and Eastern Europe, and also the US.
Nice. Can you tell us a bit about your more into depth into your role?
Yeah, sure. So within the motion control business, we typically move things from A to B using our drives and motors. We manufacture automotive parts using our numeric CNC machine controllers. So that's what we would offer to customers in terms of our portfolio. But in addition to that, we keep their processes up and running with inventory management, with people deployment, and so on. So typically, we'd like to be with them not just as somebody who supports our components in the field, but also something that some additional value with our people as well. So my responsibility is to make sure that each of my regional organisations are relevant for their respective markets.
Yeah, what markets are you playing in?
Pretty much anything and everything. So we would go from a machine tools perspective, we'd be involved in automotive and aerospace primarily, and a few others. But from a general motion control, we could be involved in anything from food and beverage to pharmaceutical to chemical to oil and gas. So it really is a broad panacea there.
Nice. How does your work directly impact customers who are just beginning their digitalization journeys?
Okay. So as I mentioned to you that as a regional management of these countries, I'd encourage them first and foremost to embrace the opportunity that this presents to Siemens and also to the customer. So just using some numbers and statistics, we can see only a few years ago, there's a couple of $1 trillion invested in this digital transformation topic. And we can anticipate that number doubling to $4 trillion in the next 1 to 2 years. So it's absolutely essential that Siemens are positioned to add value to the respective customers in Austria, let's say, or in the UK or in the US. So it's my responsibility to make sure that the go-to-market is the right one. It's also if I took one step back and told you that we were talking only a few years ago almost exclusively about electromechanical conversations, so moving our products from A to B or cutting a piece of metal using a machine tool, for example, it's to make sure that we've got the skill sets now within the business. So how do we take that electromechanical conversation and turn it into a digital transformation conversation? So how do we take the data from our drives, from our motors, from our machine tools, and add value? So have we got the skills within the business to offer value to the customers? And in terms of direct customer engagement, well, we have customers visit us in headquarters, and typically my responsibility is to make sure that we can leverage the value of our organisation to add value to them.
Nice. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to, kind of get that data from the drives and stuff. How are you, I guess, collecting that, and how does that work? I'm a very technical expert, so it's interesting to kind of learn.
Sure. So we can do it in a variety of means. That's typically one of Siemens' greatest opportunities and also greatest challenges, that we also have many ways of approaching this technical challenge for a customer. So we could be using just simple connectivity software such as brownfield connectivity, a gateway, or we could also be using industrial edge. It could be as large or small as the customer wants. And then we can provide the data simply to them on premise, or we could take it into a cloud for further analytics. So we could be a small, medium, or large to the customer.
Awesome. Thank you. What are some common challenges that customers face when they have little to no connectivity or ability to monitor their machine conditions?
Well, just taking one step back, if we may, that I gave you a statistic in one of the previous answers, and another one that is effectively 70% of customers have started this transformation journey or are thinking about starting the transformation. So that leaves a large percentage who haven't even considered this at all yet. So the first challenge that they have is, where do I start with this? And that's not the easiest question to answer, because really, before we do that, where do you start? The most important question to ask is, what do you want to achieve? So is that a case of paperless working, or is it OEE, or you tell us what your largest pain points are, and then we'll tailor a package of product, service, and solutions to achieve those goals. Again, I think that where our real value could be is that we drink our own champagne within Siemens, and what that effectively means is we always start by digitalizing and transforming our own factories. So I've been with Siemens quite a number of years, so I've seen us get this right on some occasions, and hit in our past, we've also got it wrong. So how do we share our pain point learnings, and what did we get wrong, and make sure that our customer base doesn't make the mistakes that we did 5-10 years ago, for example? So for us, we have to be keen to be driving value for their organization.
Nice. I like that we're almost our own guinea pigs to make sure that our customers get it right when we do come to them.
Yeah, yeah. We have it from a top-down strategy initiative that we must practice what we preach, drink our own champagne, whatever terminology you want to use. But it's really essential that we do this, and so that we can talk about. This is where we drove value. We can talk about quantitative benefits as well as qualitative benefits. So, for example, within this production process, we saw a 5% improvement in productivity, or 5% improvement in failure rates, let's say. So we're not wasting products as well. So lots of opportunities for us to share our learnings there.
Nice. So I guess kind of going back to that, so we help with our own, knowing our own difficulties from our plants and stuff. But what are some of the common, is it the lack of buy-in from management? Is it like, not being, obviously not knowing where to start, or which you've mentioned, but then also like the other kind of pain points? Is there any other ones?
Yeah, for sure. So with big organizations, so Siemens are actively engaged with large automotive companies, let's say another German company, which would be BMW, for example. These blue chips, and comparable in size to Siemens, they have a sea of transformation specialists. So whilst the question of where do I start and what technology should I use is always relevant to any customer, if you move further down the pyramid and you come to a small to medium enterprise, they don't have these transformation teams. And it really does become a skill set piece, because moreover, what you'd find is that typically the person that they'll give the task of transforming their business to, it's not their only job. They'll also have their day job, and then how do they make sense of it all? Because there's lots and lots of research pieces out there to be explored. But if you're struggling for the context, then how do you drive value from all that information you can find there out on the web? And I think that's where Siemens can really add value to what customers are trying to achieve, where unashamedly they've got a skill set shortage. As I said to you before, if you'd have spoken to a lot of our engineers only 5-10 years ago, they'd have been only talking electromechanical topics. So we've also had to transform our business as well. So it's not a problem unique to the SME.
Nice. I guess, is there a way that we're helping from a Siemens like corporate perspective for these companies to have like these, sorry, wordy sentence there. But is there a way that we're helping kind of help customers get started?
Yeah, sure. So with customers that we know, obviously there's an opportunity there to say we know you and you trust us. So we could go in very quickly go into a discovery phase. That discovery phase wouldn't probably be quite so extensive because the first sentence I gave you was we know you. But then we would be saying, so what are you trying to achieve? Um, what are what are your key pain points and how can we help you develop a series of use cases to drive value for your business? Um, with new clients, where do I start? Well, obviously, we're back at the discovery and the consultancy phase, but this is a much more extended conversation. So we are saying to these guys, we're new to you. You show us what you're trying to achieve again. But let us learn your infrastructure, let us learn your processes, and let us learn where, with honest, open eyes, let's see where we think that you're wasting effort or energy, and let's see how we can help you optimize that. Again, we'd look at then developing use cases thereafter, and then it becomes a strategic rollout. What I think Siemens are really well positioned to do is to help a customer develop an investment timeline and plan. Because if you mentioned about executive management, looking into these topics and saying, okay, so why should I do this? With this perhaps skepticism, we recognise that a customer will have to deliver value on the first project that they undertake. So it's about making sure that we're not too ambitious on stage one. But this all comes through experience, as I said before, sharing what we got wrong in our factories, and saying, well, this is the mistake that we made. Perhaps it might not be the smartest move to convince your leadership team if you took on this challenge. Let's look at a quicker win to buy in the investment um, and the leadership investment is also as well as the monetary investment into your business as well.
Yeah. So, what specific services does Siemens provide that eliminate the need for customers to invest in additional, uh, like expertise or resources?
So, in terms of expertise and resources, we would have dedicated consultants that could go in and assess their business. With Advanta Consulting, with colleagues within digital industries that also could to go in and look at the shop from shop floor through to IoT and guide them through the process of start, medium, and end.
Nice. And these services just include like kind of the scoping phase, but what are there other services
No,
that?
no, for sure. So the opportunity, once we've identified the use cases, the opportunity then comes to deploy the technology and to deploy the connectivity solutions and so on. Our capacity within the service department, as I said at the beginning, is we're a people business. So they could hire our resource to make this happen, put simply. So yeah, it couldn't be any easier than that. The other thing that we could do as the process matures is we've got experts that could look at and analyze the data. If you don't want to take this into the cloud, but if there are some complex readings that are specific, you'd require a specific knowledge set for, then potentially we could analyze the data for you. So, for example, if this was a diagnostic that said this asset needs servicing, needs repair, etc., then we could use that data and deploy our service people without question, or we could point the customer to that specific fault, and if they prefer, they could resolve the problem for themselves. But either way, it could be as tailored or as seamless as they want it to be.
Okay, see that's kind of I guess what I was asking. Is there like,
Yeah.
a way that we're helping other than just like giving them a heads up, hey, your data's
No, no, absolutely not. So, for example, if we knew that there was bearing problems with the motor, then we could either effect replacement or repair of that motor. It's not just here's a red flag and what do you do with it? Absolutely not. For us, the value thereafter, and the business opportunity for us thereafter is to fix the problem for them.
Nice. That's good to know, because it's definitely a day and age where it's difficult to kind of do that sometimes. So it's nice having outsourced help.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing. If it's a nice word you use, because it's something also I was thinking of earlier in the conversation. But I think if you use the companies such as BMW, their skill set is manufacturing cars. Coca-Cola is producing soft drinks. Our skill set is to drive value from their data to keep their processes and the machines up and running with our components. So nobody knows a Cinematics drive better than Siemens. So if you want to give us that opportunity to keep that asset up and running, then we're more than delighted to take it.
Awesome. That's good to know, because sometimes just one more thing on your to-do list can be a bit much.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you understand.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I know we've talked about kind of the larger helping provide the initial value based on our background at Siemens here, and then also, helping them prove it to bosses and stuff like that. Is there any other way besides like this initial scoping stage and then helping, pitch it that there is that Siemens provides at the very beginning of this journey?
Yeah. So one of the things I spoke about before was an investment timeline, let's say. So potentially starting small and scaling up. And to do that, you have to have almost like a strategic vision. And I mentioned to you before also that there is technology for us that's relatively new. I mentioned about the investment in 2022 versus the investment, and all the time things are coming online. So how do you make sense of all that information out there? So if we give them a strategic vision about what's achievable today versus what's achievable in 2 years and what's achievable in 10 years, that's really, really important, because I think lots of companies are potentially too quick to embrace technology, and understanding that sort of hype cycle around when's the right time to invest is really, really important. I think Siemens are really well placed to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess from like a Senseye perspective, it's usually when people assume if you just throw a bunch of new sensors on everything, that'll give you all the information that you need, even though that's not the case, and you don't necessarily need all those. So you put a lot of capital in it, and then you just realize you can't actually do anything with it, and you're like, oh, well, this is unhelpful. So
yeah.
Awesome. Can you share a success story or an example of a customer who benefited from Siemens services at this
Yeah,
just getting started stage?
Yeah. So, we have a company in the aggregates industry, so mining aggregates and cement. And these guys had a number of our drives. Because of the aggressive environments, they were having operational challenges with the drives. So the first conversation we had was, how can we fix these? How can we make this your system more robust? What preventative measures could we put in place? But then we transformed this conversation to, with a level of connectivity, with a level of intelligence, we can catch the problem before it fails, because effectively downtime for these types of organizations is huge loss of production and product, let's say. So we looked around the facility and we looked at what was achievable, what was realistic, etc. And then we decided to deploy connectivity, industrial edge as a service. We also have drives-based analytics. We have remote diagnostics. So when we're saying about taking the data off-site, the customer's perfectly comfortable with this because they could see the value. It wasn't sensitive data, but they could see the value of a Siemens expert looking at this and being able to diagnose this. And then going back to what you're saying about the phrase used before was boots on the ground, I think. We could employ our service technicians based on what we saw there. So we could employ an internal ticketing system. So we could mobilize our resource and go and hopefully solve the problem before the problem became a big problem, let's say. For the customer, their commitment to Siemens was a 3-year contract. We've initially, looking at that stage level of commitment, we initially focused only on the key assets. So we've got that 3-year commitment from the customer that we're very, very optimistic that will demonstrate the value of remote diagnostics and analytics. And for us, then the next stage would be, so, okay, you're hopefully very pleased with the solution that we've offered to you. How can we take this to the next step? And that could be, for example, a plant-wide predictive maintenance system with Senseye or something else, let's say.
Nice. That's a good, good way to put it. I think it
Sure.
makes sense to kind of have that variations. I know metals and mining is also a very big, Senseye thing too. So it's a very interesting industry in the way that I've learned about it from now. How, what were some of the key outcomes that they achieved with Siemens helping?
So the principal topic is to increase their availability. And whilst we are only in the first year of deployment, we've yet to have any outages of this. So I think that bears a positive sign for the future.
That's awesome. I know it's a tricky kind of industry to look at, or to be in and not have any shutdown. So,
well, absolutely. These facilities, they want to run with a high degree of availability. They don't want to close down, and when they have to close down because of outages, it's a big loss for them. Also, again, one of the things that we discussed at the outset of this was it was such an aggressive environment. So that doesn't do anything for our components and technology that's deployed on site. So that level of extra resilience that analytics will provide, I'm sure will be well received by the customer.
I'm sure. What would you say to a company that's just looking started, what would you say to a company that's hesitant to begin their digitalization journey with Siemens?
Yeah. So I mentioned first and foremost, it is the right decision to make this to start this journey. Secondly, we've been where you are. It might be 5 years ago, it might be 10 years ago, but we've been where you are, where we were starting and we didn't know where to start, and we just connected in anything and everything. And sometimes we got that wrong. So learn from where we got this wrong. We will be honest and open with you as we possibly can be. So learn from our mistakes and don't make those same ones. Make your own, let's say. But for us, leverage our knowledge, use our value, let us add value to you there. As I mentioned to you, there's a lot of information out there that's, some of it is very, very good. Some of it is perhaps questionable with overstated, ambitious claims. Let us help you demystify this topic. So engage on our experts, and we do an awful lot of experts in various industry fields. Let us apply this technology to your process. The thing, again, talking about ambitious claims, we know what is established and what's emerging technologies. Let us manage your expectations of what you can achieve. So for us, I think that all of this is about saying we want to be a credible partner for you in this transformation journey rather than just being a company that supplies you a box. So we want to be through the life cycle of your facility today, tomorrow, and thereafter. So that the last sentence is, it's made sense for us. I think it would make sense for any company that's considering this journey.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to not just hand you a product and hope for the best, because that really can hinder a lot of digitalization journeys. I know in marketing, especially like working with some of the technology that they just hand us, and then you have to figure out all the new stuff.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the challenge with a portfolio topic is that it's a portfolio, it's not a process, and it's not a plant. And the nuances of interconnectivity and interoperability that are really, really relevant to the customer. So making sure that we don't just have a singular conversation about haven't I got the best drive in the marketplace or whatever, because quite honestly, the customer doesn't care. They want to say, how can you drive value from my entire process? So I think that's where we could add real value to the customer.
Yeah. How can interested customers learn more about Siemens service contracts and get started?
So we could share our details on the web. We've got regional sales colleagues in each and every region. So I just encourage you to reach out to your local digital industries representative, and we can take the conversations from there. Or www.siemens.com, and then you'll be quick to land on the relevant page.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would want people to know?
Honestly, I think we've had quite a comprehensive conversation. I would want them to know that we're a company that they can trust. And I think that learn from our mistakes, utilize our technology correctly, utilize somebody else's technology correctly, but make sure you make the right decisions with our support for your business. That'd be what I'd want them to know.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Cool. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.